But for the meantime, several U.S. cities have been gripped by protests against the controversial acquittal of George Zimmerman. He was cleared of murder charges after shooting dead an unarmed black teenager. Demonstrations turned violent in Los Angeles on the West Coast, where police fired rubber bullets at the crowds. Adversely, though, on the East Coast, New York, several protesters were arrested as thousands blocked streets in the city center there. Marina Portnaya has the latest.
In Los Angeles, now the rally has gotten, some would say, quite violent because some of the protesters participating in the Justice for Trayvon rally were shot at by rubber bullets. Those bullets were fired by police officers in Los Angeles. We are receiving reports that some protesters have been transferred to local hospitals to be treated for their injuries. We don't know how extreme the injuries are. Streets are clearly still full with lots of protesters that have been walking hour by hour all through the streets of Manhattan. It started out in Union Square, and the procession of people just grew larger and louder. I caught up with the crowd that was probably in its thousands on 23rd Street, and at that point the crowd was so large that cars could not pass through the streets. According to what we know, there have been at least 5 arrests. That number, though, is, we're cautious with that number. According to reports, that number is quite higher. Now, what has brought all these people out into the streets of New York City and Los Angeles and Boston and elsewhere is clearly the frustration and aggravation that millions of Americans have with the verdict that came down for George Zimmerman. George Zimmerman, as you mentioned, was found not guilty and acquitted on the charges of second-degree murder. George Zimmerman, a neighborhood watch volunteer, shot and killed 17-year-old Trayvon Martin. It was in self-defense. Now, that was his claim, and that's what the jury upheld. But millions of Americans believe that this was not just a matter of stand your ground or self-defense. This is a matter of a man that was a community watch person that was armed with a gun. We spoke with some of those participating in the rallies. Here's what they had to say.
This verdict makes it very clear and gives a green light to anyone that wants to shoot and kill a youth of color. You know what? And you can get off and walk and go on and live your life. And it's okay.
I do have a daughter, and it's terrifying that I now have to go and have this conversation with her about being profiled and keeping her safe and helping her understand what she has to do to keep herself safe against other people and the police department.
Now, overnight protests from Saturday to Sunday did get quite heated, particularly in Oakland, California, where we saw video of the windows of police cars and the windows of buildings being smashed by some of those that were participating in rallies. In the meantime, the U.S. Justice Department has announced that it will be investigating and looking into whether or not a civil rights prosecution should be raised against George Zimmerman.
I know we are bringing you the latest updates on the Zimmerman verdict protests in America. You can always head to our website, rt.com, to get more on the story. That is including dramatic images from the scenes of the demonstrations, both on the West and East Coast.